All right, listen up all you 2024 and newer Land Cruiser owners. This is the speaker upgrade that you've been looking for. Hey everybody, Brian here with Trail Grid Pro, and I am super pumped to be back with you guys and announcing our new Audison 13 speaker plug and play bundle specifically designed for your 2024 and newer JBL amplified Toyota Land Cruiser. You've got a premier Toyota truck, now it's time for premier audio from Audison. We've got a whole bunch of parts and pieces laid out here on the table, so let's go over exactly what you can expect to receive in your package from Trail Grid Pro before installing your Audison speaker bundle. Starting up on the dash, we're going to replace the 3 dash speakers. You're also going to receive our custom speaker mounting brackets and the wire harness adapters for the dash speakers. Moving on to the A-pillars, you'll know that you have a JBL system because on those A-pillar speaker grills, you'll see the little JBL logo. We're going to replace those as well with our 1-inch tweeter with inline crossover. The crossovers are already going to be soldered, heat shrinked, ready to go with the correct speaker adapter for, again, a nice easy plug and play installation. In the front door, we're going to be replacing our factory speakers with these awesome 6x9 woofers. Again, you're going to receive custom speaker brackets and all of the mounting hardware to mount the speakers to the brackets and the brackets to your Land Cruiser. In the rear doors, we're going to be replacing with 6.5-inch speakers. You also have a 1-inch tweeter in the rear door. Again, pre-wired, pre-connected harnesses, a plug and play installation in the rear door. Again, you have all of the harnesses here. And then we're going to finish up in the rear hatch with 2 more of our speakers. Here, again, custom made brackets so that everything fits nice and easy in your Toyota Land Cruiser. All right, so those are all of the parts and pieces that we're going to use to install our speakers, but you may be asking yourself, why replace the speakers in my Land Cruiser? Well, it's no new thing, even in the JBL setup, that sometimes the JBL speakers, they leave you wanting a little bit more. Well, these Audison speakers, not only do they have a higher sensitivity rating and can handle way more power, the crispness, the clarity, and the overall sound improvement is night and day above the factory or the JBL speakers. These, coupled with an inline amplifier or other audio modifications, will bring your Land Cruiser to a whole new level that it just never was going to be when it came out of the factory. Our goal here at Trail Grid Pro is to make these audio upgrades as easy as possible. So, like I said, our team has put a lot of effort into the custom speaker brackets, the acrylic brackets for the dash. We even made 3D printed brackets for the tweeters. They will already come pre-assembled on the tweeters for you. This is just a matter of taking your door panels off, taking the factory speaker out, plugging our connectors in, and putting it all back together. This job can be done easily with a few simple hand tools. You're going to need a ratchet with a 10mm socket, a screwdriver. You can either use powered or manual. You're also going to want a small #1 Phillips. We do need to do some pre-assembly of our speakers with our acrylic brackets. You also need a panel tool, either plastic or metal, and a few hours in your garage to complete this install. Now that we've talked about how awesome this upgrade is, let's jump in the Land Cruiser and I'll show you how easily it can be disassembled to install our new speakers. We're going to start on the dash, then we're going to move to the A-pillar, the front door, the rear door, and then the rear hatch. So let's get our panel tool out and we're going to start on the dash speaker. To remove our dash speaker grill here, we're going to use our panel tool and we're going to go right here below the front edge and get under and gently pry up. And the little clips will pop out. And we can lift this straight up and out. And now we have access to the 2 10mm bolts that hold in our dash speaker. And then before we remove our speaker, we're going to go ahead and remove the A-pillar trim here so that we can also get access to our tweeter. To do that, here on the side of the grab handle, there are 2 covers. We're going to remove those covers and then that will reveal 2 more 10mm bolts. To remove the covers, use your panel tool, pop them off. Now grab our 10mm socket. We're going to remove the 2 10mm bolts from the A-pillar trim and the 2 10mm bolts from the dash speaker. So we have the two out from the A-pillar trim. We're going to set those to the side. The grab handle itself will come off. Then we can go ahead and pull the A-pillar plastic. Just reach in and pop it off. And then we're going to pull up and back towards us. Now keep in mind the wire for the tweeter here is very short. So we're going to have to reach behind here. There's a tab on one side of the connector that we're going to depress. All right, we're going to remove our A-pillar. So here's the tweeter connector. There is the release tab that I was referencing. I know it's hard to see. So you're just going to depress the tab and then remove the connector. Now we can go ahead and remove our dash speaker using our 10mm socket. The one here in the front is a lot closer to the glass, so we're going to go ahead and grab a 10mm wrench to get that one out. Now we have it loosened up. We can go ahead and remove that one. We can now lift our dash speaker up and out of the dash. We'll find the connector. Again, there is a tab. Just depress the tab here on top of the connector and remove it from the speaker. So here is the A-pillar trim that we just removed from the Land Cruiser. We need to get the tweeter out of the A-pillar trim. So if we flip it over here, we can see our tweeters right here, and it's just held in with these couple little tabs. So what you can do is you can gently pry back on the little tabs and just put a little bit of pressure on the tweeter itself. And once you kind of get two of them loosened up, our factory tweeter will come out of our A-pillar trim and make way for our new aftermarket speaker. We're now ready to put our dash speakers in their brackets and make a dash speaker assembly that we can then drop in our Land Cruiser. So for that, we're going to need one of these little 1-inch speakers. We're going to need an acrylic bracket. There's also provided nuts and bolts for you, and then one of these speaker wire harness adapters. So the idea here is, see, we have the TGP logo engraved on the bracket. We're going to take our speaker, we're going to drop it through the hole in the bracket, and we're going to line up the mounting tabs here with the holes in the bracket, and then we can use our number 4 nut and bolts to secure the speaker to the bracket. So to do that, we'll get a couple of these out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the number 4 bolt, stick it through the speaker and through the bracket, and then on the back side here we can attach the number 4 nut. And then we're going to repeat that process until we have all 4 of them started, and then we can snug them down with a Phillips head screwdriver. Now we have all 4 nuts and bolts started. We can grab a Phillips head screwdriver and we're just going to snug these up. Again, no need to over tighten or over torque these. It is also important to note the acrylic brackets do just have this protective paper on them. If you would like to remove it, you can absolutely do that. You can just peel it off. For the video, I'm just going to go ahead and leave them on because they're going to be in the dash and you're not going to see them anyway. So the only thing we have left to do is on the back, we need to attach our speaker wire harness. So on this, you'll see there's an 1/8 and 1/4 inch spade connector. These will correlate to the 1/8 and 1/4 inch spades on the speaker itself. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the metal tab, the spade off of the speaker, goes in the middle. We don't want it between the metal and the plastic. We want it all the way in the middle there. So we're going to wiggle our speaker connector in place. And we'll do the same thing with the 1/8 inch side. Again, we're going to wiggle that in place. We now have a completed dash assembly. Now we're going to install our new 1-inch tweeter into our A-pillar trim. Again, our team has designed a 3D printed cup that is going to perfectly hold this tweeter. It's already going to be wired for you. So what we're going to do is, on the speaker itself, there's 3 tabs across the top that are closer together, and then you have 2 on the bottom. The tab here in the center, in the middle of the 3, what we call the crown, is going to line up to the top retaining tab on the A-pillar trim. So all we need to do is just line that up, and we're going to push it into place. Again, you may need to use your panel tool to pull the tabs back. Gently pull the tabs back until there we go. Our tweeter pops nicely in place, and now that 3D printed cup is holding the tweeter into the A-pillar. So now we can grab our crossover. So our crossover here, this is the APCX P2T crossover. This has a couple of settings on it, so we're going to leave it set to 0 dB. If you find yourself wanting a little bit more out of the tweeter, you can change it to a +3 dB, and that's going to improve or increase the sound output. But to keep everything kind of equally toned, we're going to leave it to 0 dB. And then all we need to do to connect our crossover to our tweeter is there is an 8th male and female spade connector, and the tweeter has an 8th male and female. So we're going to find a male and a female here, and again, sometimes it's easier to pull back the plastic covering here. We're going to insert the spades together, and then we're going to put the little rubber covers back over so that it's completely insulated and we don't have to worry about the speaker wires touching each other. So again, we're going to insert the spades. Push the covers back over. All right, now that I've showed you how the crossover is going to be connected to the tweeter, I'm actually going to go ahead and disconnect it, because I'm going to show you how the best way is to hide the crossover away in the dash and still be able to make our speaker connections. So for right now, we're going to keep a hold of the crossover, and we're going to set our A-pillar trim with our tweeter off to the side. And we're going to move back into the truck, and I'll show you how to route the wire for this so that we can then reinstall our A-pillar. With our crossover, we're going to go down through the hole where the dash speaker was, and we can just tuck it away. There's a little bit of room back there towards the firewall. And then we want to take our speaker connector and our 1/8 inch spades, and we're going to work it up under the plastic and come up right here by the drain tube. All right, so now there's our speaker connector. Here's our crossover wires. So now what we can do is we can connect our speaker adapter back to the factory wiring. And we'll tuck our crossover down out of the way. Now we can grab our A-pillar trim, and we're going to make the spade connections from the crossover wire to the speaker. Again, you can push the little rubber plastic insulators back. Find our male matched up with our female, and our female with our male. And we'll put the insulators back over. All right, so now we have our speaker connected to our crossover is connected back to the factory wiring. Now we can slide our A-pillar trim back in place, line up the 2 tabs here on the bottom with the slots in the dash. We can push that back into place for right now. Make any final adjustments to your crossover. Now we're going to install our dash speaker. So we have our dash speaker assembly. Now all we're going to do is grab our wiring adapter, grab our factory wiring, line them up, snap them into place, and we can tuck our speaker wire down in the dash, and then our bracket is going to line up with the factory mounting locations. We're going to grab our silver screws and we'll go ahead and start those by hand. Just want to be careful that you don't damage the cone of the tweeter. Now that we have that back in place, we can tighten those two 10mm bolts down. Again, these just need to be finger tight. There's no reason to over tighten or torque them. All right, we now have our dash speaker installed. We can grab our speaker grill. Go ahead and slide that into place. Get the tabs lined up, snap it back into place. Grab our grab handle and fit that back into place. Going to grab the two longer black bolts here. And get those started and tighten those down. Last step is to replace your covers. And those will just pop into place. There we go. Now that we have our corner dash and our A-pillar knocked out, let's go ahead and do the center dash. To gain access to our center dash speaker, we're going to use our pry tool again. And there's this speaker grill and cover that kind of goes up over the back of the radio. We're going to just insert our pry tool down below there, and we're going to gently pry up, and you can see it starts to pop up out of the way. And we'll just work our way around. There we go. So you can see all the clips there holding it in. Now we just need to grab our 10mm wrench, and we're going to take out the two bolts here, and that will get our factory speaker out. Make sure you grab these and they don't fall down in the dash. We're going to set our two screws out of the way. We can now lift our factory speaker up. And again, Toyota did not leave us a lot of wire here. What we're looking for is the factory connector. I'm going to depress the tab. All right, with our tab depressed, we can then remove our connector, and now we are ready to install our aftermarket speaker. I've gone ahead and off camera, I've put together the rest of the speaker assemblies. So all of these speakers are going to use the acrylic bracket and the number 4 nuts and bolts along with your speaker harness adapter. So now that we have our assembly put together, we can drop it in the dash. So real easy. All we're going to need to do is we're going to set our speaker there. We're going to grab our factory wiring connector, line it up, and snap it together. And we can tuck our speaker wire away. There we go. And we'll just rotate our speaker until we get the factory mounting locations to line up. And grab our factory screws, and we'll go ahead and get those started. Now that we have those started, let's tighten them up. Again, no need to over tighten or over torque. And now now that we have our new Audison speaker in, let's grab our dash grill, line up the tabs. There we go. Snap it back into place. We're now ready to disassemble our front door. So we're going to go back to our panel tool. We're going to remove a couple of screws that are holding the door panel on. One of those is going to be here behind the door handle. Then there's two more down here behind a plastic panel in the grab handle of the door. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our panel tool. We're going to go in right between the lock and the little plastic panel here and gently pry out, and that's going to pop our door handle cover off. And then the second one is here in the grab handle. We're going to take our panel tool, and you'll see a seam right here at the top. We're going to work our pry tool in and pull back towards us, and that's going to reveal two more Phillips head screws down in the grab handle. So we can now grab our screwdriver and we'll get all three of those out. First screw is up top here behind the door handle. And then we have two more down in the grab handle. All right, Toyota has finally done us a favor on the door hardware. All three of these screws are exactly the same. So when we go to put them back in, it doesn't really matter which one you use. But for right now, we're going to set these off to the side. Now, the next thing we're going to need to do is remove all of the pop clips that hold in the edge of the door panel. So what I usually like to do is start towards the bottom, find some place to get my fingers in, and then gently start prying out to release all of the pins. All right, there we go. So now we can lift the door panel up and off the door. We have a couple of connectors we need to remove. The first of those is going to be the door latch and the lock. So you have the white and green here. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift that out of the slot, and then we're going to rotate it until the little metal ball pops out. We're going to do the same for the green. Now we have the connector here. Again, depress the tab and remove. We have a cable here. There's a tab on that one as well. We're going to remove that. And then the last one we have is the courtesy light. There we go. Now that we have our door panel completely removed from the door, this is a good time to go around and check and make sure that we have all of our retainers. Sometimes they like to stay in the door, especially if it's the first time you've ever taken the door panel off. So make sure that you use a panel or a pop clip remover, grab those out of the door and go ahead and stick them back in, as you'll want all of those in place when you put your door panel back on. So for right now, we're going to set this out of the way, and then we'll work on getting our factory speaker out. To remove our factory speaker, first thing we're going to want to do is go right up top here and remove the speaker wire. So again, depress the tab and pull that out of the way, and then you can grab either a Phillips head screwdriver or 10mm socket, take out the 4 bolts, and we'll get our factory 6x9 out of the way. Here we are. Now we can give the speaker a little pull, and then you're going to want to slide it down to release the tab here, and we can now set this to the side. Now we're going to begin installing our new Audison 6x9. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our 6x9 bracket, and also we've provided you with some new bolts to secure the bracket to the door panel. The factory bolts are just a little bit too short, so we're not going to reuse these in this instance. So we've provided you enough bolts for both sides and then an extra one just in case you drop it across the garage floor. So let's go ahead and grab out 4 bolts. And then on our bracket here, we have a slot that's going to go towards the top where the factory wiring is located. So we're going to line our bracket up, and then we'll go ahead and start our quarter bolts. All right, now that we have those started, we can go ahead and snug them up with our 10mm socket. All right, now our bracket is in place. Next thing we're going to want to do is grab our new Audison 6x9 and another one of our speaker adapters. Again, just like the other speakers, you have an 1/8 and 1/4 inch spade connector here, so we're going to line those up. Again, just kind of wiggle them onto the post until they're secure. We're going to attach the factory wiring. We're going to put the wire in the little wire slot. We can fit our 6x9 to the door. Out of your provided hardware, there will be a bag of Phillips head screws, 3/4 inch Phillips head screws. We're going to grab some of those, and we're going to use those to secure our speaker to the bracket. So we'll go ahead and get one started. Get our speaker lined up with the dimples in the bracket. So now that we have one started, we will grab 3 more. And make sure you protect the speaker with your hand. All right, there we are. Got our new 6x9 installed. Now all we need to do is grab our door panel, reattach everything, and put it back into place. Just going to reverse the steps of how we took it apart. So we're going to start down here with the courtesy light. Reattach this white connector. Get the window switch reattached. Got to get our door cables. So we're going to go, the green one's going to go on the bottom. So put the ball in the cup, swivel it until you get it lined up, snap that into place. The white connector is going to go on top. All right. Now we want to hang our door back on the top of the door panel. Get our pins lined up. Snap that back into place. Can now grab the 3 Phillips head screws that we originally took out of the door. And we're going to go ahead and replace these. So 1 behind the door handle and 2 inside the grab handle. Now grab our cover panels. So the tabs here are going to go down inside the grab handle. We're going to push that into place, and then the cover for behind the door handle, slide that in, snap it into place. That wraps up the install on the front door. We can now move to the rear door and begin disassembly there. So again, just like the front door, same 3 screws to take out, 1 behind the door handle, and then 2 behind the cover plate here in the grab handle. So let's grab our panel tool. Again, we're going to remove the cover plate behind the handles. We're going to work our panel tool in the top here, pry out towards ourselves, and we'll lift that up and out of the way. Let's grab our screwdriver and get the 3 Phillips head screws out. save those. Now we can release all of the clips along the door panel. And we can lift our door panel up and off. And just like the front door, we're going to release the door cables, pull the connectors up and out of the slot, and swivel and release the metal ball. We have a connector here, blue connector. We're going to release the window switch. Again, press the tab and remove. And then the last one is the courtesy light. Again, depress the tab and remove it. Now we can set our door panel off to the side. Again, we're going to check, make sure we got all of the clips out. We actually had one stay in the door, so we'll get our panel removal tool. We'll pop our one clip out and we're going to stick that back in our door panel. So that one went right down there. All right, now that we have our door panel removed on the rear door, we also have another tweeter here that needs to be removed. So what we can do, again, just like the A-pillar, we're going to use our pry tool. We're going to gently pull back on the tabs, and then you can see that just pops right out. And then we're going to depress the tab here on the side and remove our factory tweeter. Now we can remove our factory door speaker. We're going to depress and release the tab. And then we're going to grab our Phillips head or 10mm socket and remove the 3 bolts. Again, pull, lift up, and release the retaining tab there. And now we've made way for our new aftermarket speaker. It's now time to install our new Audison 6.5 in the rear door. So for that, we're going to need our speaker wire adapter, our speaker bracket, some more of those quarter bolts, and some more of our black Phillips head screws. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, attach our speaker adapter harness to our speaker. Again, lining up the 1/8 and 1/4 inch spades. Wiggle those in place. Now we can work on attaching our speaker bracket to the door, and then we'll secure our speaker. We're going to start with our 6.5 bracket. Again, we're going to line the slot up towards the factory wiring. We'll go ahead and start our quarter bolts by hand. And we'll snug these up with our 10mm. Now grab our Audison 6.5 inch speaker. We'll connect our factory wiring. Again, we're going to put our wiring in the channel. Grab one of our Phillips head screws. We've got our mounting hole lined up there. Grab our screwdriver and get this started. Get all 4 started. And now that they're started, we'll go ahead and tighten them down. Again, protecting the speaker with our hand. All right, there we go. Speaker wires attached. Now we need to install the tweeter. Installation of our rear door tweeter is going to be pretty similar to the A-pillar, but in this case we don't have anywhere that we need to fish the crossover through, so we can go ahead and make our connections here on our spade connectors. Again, match up male and female, female and male. Replace your insulators. Again, same crown shaped speaker adapter. So we're going to match that up with the slot in our door panel. So again, the crown here with the 3 is going to go towards the side here. There we go. So our tweeter is nice and secure. Now all we need to do is connect our factory speaker wiring. And then if you want to, you can use a zip tie or twist tie, and then to clean up the crossover here, just to hold it up out of the way. So now that we have our tweeter and our 6.5 installed in our rear door, we can now reinstall our door panel. So we're just going to do reverse order of how we took it apart. So we're going to do the courtesy light, we're going to do the main connections, and then the door cables. Have our courtesy light, reconnect the blue connector, connect our window switch, reconnect our door cables. Again, green goes on the bottom. Insert the ball, swivel it over, and lock in the connector. The white one goes on top. Now when we reinstall the door panel, there's a little hook right here. You can see there's a white plastic tab here. We want to hook the tab into that. So we'll start with this end. There we go, that side's lined up. All right, got all of our push pins in. We can now reinstall the 3 Phillips head screws. So we'll put 1 behind the door handle and 2 in the grab handle. Grab our cover plate for the grab handle, slide it back into place, and then lock it in. And grab our cover for behind the door handle, slide it in, and snap it back into place. There we go. We've now wrapped up the rear door, and we're going to move to the rear hatch. We're now ready to disassemble the rear hatch. My recommendation is, if you have a buddy to give you an extra set of hands, it's definitely going to come in very helpful as we remove this panel, because it is over our heads, and then we will need some help to remove these 2 interior lights. So first thing we need to do is actually remove some ancillary trim before we can actually start on the hatch piece itself. First piece of trim that we're going to remove is actually all the way up here at the top of the hatch. So you can basically just reach in, grab it with your fingers, and we're going to release all the pins there. And then we're going to remove the corner pieces here in the same fashion. Again, just removing all of the pins. All right, with that out of the way, we now have the top of the hatch cover loosened up. Now we need to remove some stuff here on the back of the hatch. So to do that, we're going to grab our panel tool. We're going to remove the grab handle here. We're going to take our panel tool and go in the top and kind of fish it through and push it down, and that's going to release it. We then need to remove the trim panel here around the latch. To do that, we can pop out at the bottom, and then we're going to slide the 2 tabs down and out. And then we also need to remove the liftgate buttons. So to do that, again, reach in, we're going to pop the panel out. Now we need to remove the white cover So gently pry up there. Remove the cover. Now we can disconnect the two harnesses here by depressing the tab. At this point, we now just need to release the clips. Once we start to release the clips, there will be two wire harnesses for the lights here. This is the step when, if you have an extra set of hands, that will be helpful. So somebody can hold the panel cover while somebody else releases the wiring harnesses. So what we can do is we'll get in here, and again, we'll start releasing the pop clips. And we'll work our way all the way around. We get Austin to jump in here and help hold the panel while we release the light harnesses. There it goes. Thank you, Austin. So as we can see here, here's the two harnesses for the lights. My recommendation is use a small flathead screwdriver, get in there, open the tab, and then release the pin. So if we kind of turn it to the side here, then you can get in under the tab, depress it, and release it. There we go. All right, so hatch cover is off. We can now set this to the side. Now we have the hatch cover removed. We can see that we have two factory speakers in the rear hatch. For these, I'm going to use a T20 Torx. You can also use a socket to take these out, but we'll use a T20 Torx, and we're going to remove the factory screws from the speaker. We'll let these dangle for a second while we get all four of them out. We're going to save the factory screws. And then on each of these speakers, there is a connector, so just find the tab, depress it, and release the speaker. It's now time to install our Audison speakers in our rear hatch. So you're going to want to put together two more of the speaker assemblies with the acrylic bracket and the wiring harness. So all we need to do is match up the factory plugs, snap those into place. We're going to grab our factory hardware, our little T20 bolts here, and we're going to tuck our speaker wire up. And again, we're going to line up our bracket with the factory mounting locations. So we have one started. And the second one started. We'll go ahead and tighten these down. So there's one speaker installed. And we're going to repeat the same for the other side of the hatch. Go ahead and tighten this down. If you are going to change out your factory woofer, it is also located right here in the rear hatch. Our speaker kit does not include a woofer replacement. We are just replacing the dash, tweeter, door, and rear hatch speakers themselves. But if you need to gain access, the subwoofer is right here in the Land Cruiser as well. So we now have the speakers installed in our rear hatch. It's now time to reverse the steps and put our hatch cover back on. All right, so Austin and I are going to get the hatch cover reinstalled. So again, also to help hold this up while we connect the lights. So line up the tab, give them a firm push until they snap into place. All right. We then want to make sure that we have our liftgate wires through the opening, and then we can line up our panel. There we go. Give it a good push. All right. Perfect. Now we're going to grab our cover and our liftgate buttons. We're going to go ahead and reinstall these. These are keyed, so you can't get them backwards. So we're going to go ahead and plug the connectors in. The cover says up. That means up that way. So we'll slide the cover over, line the pin up, snap that into place. Now we can put the tabs here along the bottom. We can hook those in and then put that back in place. We're going to replace our center cover. So again, tabs here, we're going to insert them in the hole. Slide that up until it locks into place. Our grab handle, and that will only really want to go in one way. So hook the bottom, snap the top in. Now we're going to install our corner pieces, starting here at the bottom. Do the same on the other side. And then we're going to grab the top trim, line it up, and snap it back into place. So all in all, not too bad. Obviously a little bit easier with a helping hand. We've now wrapped up the trunk or the rear hatch. Now we just need to complete the install on the passenger side of the vehicle. We can now begin disassembly of the passenger side rear door. It's going to be the exact same steps as on the driver's side, so we'll just go through it. Get our cover out behind the door handle. Get our cover plate out in the grab handle. Grab our screwdriver and get the 3 screws out. Set those here to the side. Now we can grab the door panel off. Again, we're going to release the cables, slide them up out of the slot, and rotate them. I'm going to release the wiring harnesses. All right, if you guys will notice, when this door panel came off, so did this bit of trim. That is fine too. We're going to set our door panel to the side. I'm going to grab our pieces of trim here. Go ahead and fit this back to the door. There we go. Get that back in place so it'll be there when we put our door back together. Now we can go ahead and disconnect the factory speaker, and we'll grab our socket or a Phillips head screwdriver and remove the 3 bolts. Now lift our speaker up and out of the way. And on our door panel, let's not forget about our tweeter. So again, we're going to depress the tab. Disconnect our wiring harness and then use our panel tool to remove our 1-inch tweeter. We're going to start with the installation of our 1-inch tweeter for our Audison kit. Again, on the rear doors, remember we can just connect the spade connectors. So we'll get this started here. Again, connect the spades, push the little insulators back over top. All right, got those connected. Let's grab our door panel. Again, 3D Cup has 3 tabs here towards the top of the bracket. It's going to go right here. Grab our panel tool. There we go. Got all 3 of those tabs secured and locked in. So that's ready to go back on. Let's get our 6.5 in the door, and then we'll put the door card back on. Let's grab 3 more of our quarter bolts and our 6.5-inch bracket. We'll get that up to the door. Get our quarter bolts started. Got our 6.5-inch speaker. Again, we've attached the speaker harness, so the 1/8 and 1/4-inch spade connectors. Line that up with our factory wiring. Snap it into place. Put our wires in the wiring channel. Now we're going to grab out our black Phillips head screws. Get it lined up with one of the dimples. Get one of our screws started. We'll grab the other 3. All right. There we are. Now we can grab our door panel and put our door panel back on. All right, so again, door panel, reverse of the way we took it off. We start with the courtesy light at the bottom. We get our switches connected. Let's connect our tweeter crossover connection. Get the Windows switch connected. And then our door cables, green on the bottom, white on the top. Again, on the rear door, we're going to make sure we hang the hook in that little slot. All right, there we go. All right, got our door panel pushed back in. Grab our 3 Phillips head screws. One more behind the grab handle. Put our cover plates back on. All right, there we are. Rear door wrapped up. Let's move on to the front door. We can now do the disassembly of the front passenger door. So again, just like the other front door and all of the other doors to this point, got the cover behind the handle, cover in the grab handle, pry that out and up. Let's grab our Phillips head screwdriver and get the 3 screws out. we can pull the door panel off. Lift it up and off the door. And let's disconnect our cables and our connectors. All right, here we are. Quick check. Yep, got them all. Again, disconnect your speaker wire and remove the 4 10mm bolts. And we're going to pry this one out of the vehicle, and we can now set this off to the side. We're going to throw in the other 6x9 bracket for our new Audison speakers. So again, put the slot towards the factory connector there. We're going to grab the last couple of our quarter bolts and get those started. Now we have them started, let's snug them down. Alright, now we can grab our 6x9 speaker. Again, attach your speaker wire connector. Connect our wiring to the factory wiring. There we go, snapped right into place. Put the wires in the channel. Grab one of our Phillips head screws. Get one of them started, and we'll get the other 3 started, and then we'll tighten them all down. Alright, there we are. With our speaker installed, now we can grab our door panel and put it back on. So start with the courtesy light. Get all of our connectors. And the cables, again, last time, green on the bottom, white on the top. We'll hang our door panel. Get it lined up and push it in place. Grab your 3 Phillips head screws and put those back. Two in the grab handle, one behind the door handle. Grab our cover plates. Again, put that down in and then push it in, lock it in. And replace the cover behind the door handle. All right, there we are. Doors wrapped up. We're in the home stretch. Now we just need to do the right dash speaker and the right A-pillar tweeter. All right, home stretch. Let's get out the A-pillar here. Again, we're going to take the covers off of the grab handle. And let's grab our 10mm. And we'll take out the 2 bolts. Set these to the side, take our grab handle off, and now we're going to pull off the A-pillar trim. Remember, the wire back here is very short, So we're going to reach back here, depress the tab. Oh, actually the whole tweeter is going to come out, so that's what we were trying to do anyway. There we go. Depress the tab, remove our tweeter. It self-extricated from the A-pillar trim, but again, if you need to, just pry back on the ears here to get your factory speaker out. Set our A-pillar trim to the side for right now. And we'll grab our panel tool and get the dash speaker grill out. So again, working it under the lip. There we go. And we're going to pop that up. And that removes the grill. Can now grab either our ratchet or socket. We'll use the wrench for the one next to the window. Get that loosened up. Get the screw out, and then the other one we should be able to get with our socket. Now we can lift our speaker up and out of the way. Again, find the tab on the wire. It is very short. Going to depress the tab and remove our factory speaker. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to run our crossover for our A-pillar tweeter. So again, we're going to run the connector and the spades through where our dash speaker should go. We're going to work it up towards the factory connectors. There's a couple more plugs on this side, but there should be enough room to wiggle it through. So just take your time. There we go. We got our crossover tucked away. So let's tuck this behind this main harness. And we will connect our factory tweeter wire back. We're going to tuck our male and female spades back behind as well. Keep everything out of the way. Put our little cover back on. All right, so now we have our tweeter wires to be able to connect to our A-pillar tweeter. We can now grab our dash speaker, attach the factory connectors. There we go. We're going to push our dash speaker into place. Again, make sure we got the factory mounting locations lined up. And then we're going to install our factory screws. Again, being careful not to damage the dash speaker. Get those started. And then we will snug them up with our wrench. All right, there we are. All right, we can now install our tweeter into the A-pillar. Again, find the little tabs on the bracket. And we're going to push those into place until they are secured. We can now put our A-pillar trim up here, and we'll make our connections for the speaker wire. Again, push your insulators, your covers back over. All right, there we go. Speaker wires are connected. Let's get this tucked up out of the way. We'll reinstall our A-pillar trim. There we go. Pop that into place. We'll grab our dash speaker grill. Snap that back into place. Let's grab our grab handle and the two longer bolts, 10mm bolts. those started, and then we'll tighten those down. All right, final step, we need to replace our covers for our grab handle. And with that satisfying snap, we are done. All right, so we've done all the hard work. We've installed our new Audison 13 speaker plug and play bundle for your 24 and newer Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, here's the good part. Let's fire it up and listen to our new improved premium audio. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging in with me this far in the video. Now it's time for the big listen reveal that everybody loves to hear at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and find some music and we'll get this playing and get it fired up and see the awesome improvement that we've done to the Land Cruiser today. All right, so already a massive improvement over the factory JBL speakers that we took out of here. Things that I'm hearing, the crispness, the clarity, especially in the higher end, is just way improved over anything that we've had in this vehicle before. There's more mid-bass coming from the doors. The sound is fuller, it's brighter, it's just all around. It's a whole nother vehicle. Like I said, upgrading the speakers is always an awesome option. Adding other components, whether it's an inline amplifier, is going to turn your vehicle into the way that it should have been when you got it from Toyota and give you that awesome premium sound in your premium vehicle. If you're looking to upgrade your audio and you want to pick up this Audison 13 speaker plug and play bundle or any of our other awesome Land Cruiser accessories, head over to the shop right now at trailgridpro.com. And like always, have a blast out there.